Welcome to the Wolf Connection podcast. I'm your host, John Kalfa. Let's talk about some wolves. Another John joining me on the podcast today. Steven is currently driving to Wyoming, so unfortunately he will not be with us today. But our friend, John Wood, who we met in Yellowstone a couple months ago, who is an avid wolf watcher, former PGA golf caddy, now analyst with the Golf Channel, correct?
And NBC, right? Yep.
And NBC, yeah.
Yep.
So we met in Yellowstone. Dude, you are a huge help. I mean, if you guys are ever in Yellowstone and you need help scoping, John Wood is your guy because he has a great scope, great eye, and he knows all the points. And now he's here and he's at Wolf Connection and he made, the drive and he drives everywhere. So dude, this is great. I'm so glad you're here.
Me too. I just had, you guys don't know it, but we just had the greatest time going around meeting all the wolves and taking on a little hike. And I couldn't get enough of it. I was laying around, rolling in the dirt with them, basically. So I couldn't get enough of it. This place is fantastic.
No.
You're going to have a hard time getting me to leave.
I know. No, it's fantastic. Just tell everybody how did you get into wolf watching? Because you told us, but it's fascinating. So you had a career as a caddy. And then how did that all transform into nature and hiking and all this other stuff? I've been caddying on the PGA Tour for 24 years. And then earlier this year, I just made the move to become a on-course commentator for Golf Channel and NBC. And as far as being a wolf watcher, it's something I always liked. I love wolves. They've always been my favorite animal. If I happen to make it to a party, I'm out back with the dogs every single time. But I always had it in my head that I wanted to go see the wolves of Yellowstone, but for some reason I had it that you had to make a huge plan and get a guide and, do all this really intensive, homework and everything. And so I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And then finally, 4 years ago, I just said, you know what? I had a few weeks off. I literally threw all my camping gear in my truck, drove 16 hours to Yellowstone and literally slept in my car for an hour. And about an hour after sunrise, we saw the entire Junction Butte pack, walking across Lamar Valley. And from that second, if I get free time, it's all I want to do is go up there. I'm just absolutely addicted to it. And it's the best addiction I've ever had. Yeah, man. No, I don't blame you at all because it's so funny. So those of you who are listening, and we didn't get a picture of you with us, but we got a picture of Steve Johnson, right? I think it was Steve Johnson.
Yeah,
Steve Johnson. So Steve Johnson was one of our pictures when we were in Yellowstone, but John was right there in that first grouping that we met, literally the first day, and it's incredible because we saw the Junction Butte coming through that canyon, and that was just an epic morning. I mean, it was just you get up and everything fell into place. But man, for you, is it on the regular? Like, I guess, do you have the time and the space to do it?
I do.
More than you do, yeah.
Yeah, thankfully, my job is not completely seasonal, but I get tons of time off during the year that I can get up there. Most of the time I'm up there, I kind of spend October through March. That's when I spend most of my time up there. I really like the winter. It's easier to see the wolves, and there's less people, so it's just much easier to find a spot and check them out. But, I think when I went up there the first time, you're kind of like, well, I won't see them. Everybody else does. You just don't have that belief that you're going to be lucky enough to see them. But once you go and you get, it's such an incredible community up there, as you now know. Just talking with them and hearing their stories and helping each other out find the wolves from different pullouts and things like that. Now I don't think there's been a day I've been up there that I haven't seen wolves. Sometimes it's, you see 50 wolves in a day and see them taking down an elk. Other days, you might see 2 or 3 just jumping out of a bush. You never know. But just being up there and, once you get inside the park, you've got Rick and Maddie and Taylor and all these people you've had on your, Laurie on your podcast and Jeremy, that it's free education. I mean, I feel like I should be paying them every day when I'm out there during the Wolf Project or something, because you're there, and they're just full of information and they're so friendly and they'll tell you anything anything you want to ask, they've got an answer for it. And you develop those relationships. And as we were on the hike this morning, I was talking to Elena about how you really kind of it almost feels like that's my tribe now.
Mm.
Those are the things I really care about, the wolves and being out in nature and hiking. That's my closest people I have, in terms of that. I don't have any friends, from Sacramento or anything who go up to Yellowstone and look at wolves yet. But, to have those friendships and get to know that community has been so special for me.
Yeah, the community to me is really striking, because you wouldn't think that a group of, not strangers necessarily, but there are just people who have been doing it for so long and very helpful. I have to agree. I met Mountain Joe on
Oh yeah,
on the last day we were there on a Sunday, I believe, and didn't know him from a hole in the wall, and he was helping me, pick our spot, or say, oh, they were over here, because we went back to the elk carcass that they had killed the day before. And it's just really incredible how just into helping each other everybody is. And I find that really fascinating in the times that we are right now, that you can go to a place that you've never been to before, and we sort of caught the bug too, because we had them in our scopes, and we had people pulling off on the side of the road and saying, where can you see them? And we're like, no, here, look in our scope and do it. It seems like it's an infectious thing. Right when you go there, I don't know if you feel the same. I mean, you must feel the same way.
Absolutely agree, 100%. When you first go, it's kind of intimidating almost, because you don't really know how to set your scope up. You don't know the names of the pullouts or the names of the landmarks they're talking about to tell you where the wolves are. So you're a little shy and a little, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to bug them. But once you engage with them for the first time, they can't help you enough. And I've gotten to that point now where I feel like I'm a pretty good spotter, and I know the names of most of the places and pullouts. To set a scope up, especially for kids, I love when kids are looking for wolves, and they, when they see them for the first time, that for me is like, I can't get my scope low enough, immediately when that happens, and point it out to them, and hopefully be able to tell them a couple stories or answer a couple questions for them. But yeah, that you said it, the community is so special, and I think it's something so unique that we care about, that, it's not I don't think very many people, would think of this as a hobby. Go stand out in, minus 10 degree temperatures and watch wolves from a couple miles. But once you've done it once, it changes you.
Yeah. Yeah. And everything comes onto that too, because you have bears and eagles and coyotes and all these other different things. I mean, Taylor Bland has been posting incredible footage the last few weeks, just about because the Cubs are out and they're doing their thing. And she's another wonderful guide and scoper and tracker. That's part of Nathan Varley's company, and they do incredible work. I mean, what was it about for you? What's it about wolves? Or was it wolves in general? Was it wolves specifically, or was it just nature? What was the thing that really pulled you to that spot?
Right. Definitely the wolves. I mean, I love nature. I'll camp anywhere in the world and go look at any wildlife in the world, but wolves by far are my favorite, animal to watch. So it was definitely a pull to that place, knowing that would be the easiest and most likely place to see them. And like I said, from the first day I got there and was able to see, the entire pack walking across the valley, it is literally life-changing. I hate to keep going back to that, but it is. Once you see them once, it's hard to explain what that feeling. I get goosebumps sometimes just thinking about them. And then the great thing about, you had Laurie on last week about, when you're not in the park, like I haven't been for a couple months now, but, you can read her reports every night and feel like you're staying updated on the wolves that and the packs that And so when you go the next time, you're not behind, in the stories, where everybody stands.
Right.
So-and-so have paired off to start a new group. And so her Yellowstone reports is invaluable in that way.
Yeah. And it's so incredible too. I think I'll speak for Steven, but I believe he agrees with me on this. Just the fact that we started this little podcast, and you guys, Steve, the people that we've interviewed so far, and it's really incredible to find that everyone is interconnected in a way that they've heard of Wolf Connection. They sort of know about the podcast a little bit, and as it's grown, and it's still small in stature to a lot of different things, is that we've all sort of gravitated together into this one little spot. And it's for myself, it's mind blowing, because it's the thing that and I'm not blowing smoke and I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying that just the fact that it's grown to where it is and that it's reached the corners of Yellowstone and it's reached even further than that in like Wisconsin, to us is just, it's the tip of the iceberg now, because we're like, well, we have to keep going. It's got to, we got to keep building off of it. It's just,
you have to keep going for me, at least, I want, so I have something to listen to every week. Yeah. And I wasn't super familiar with your podcast. And I think I first, I was searching for Rick's name on something and it came up that he was on your podcast. And that was my first listen, was his episode.
Wow.
And ever since then I've gone back and listened to the ones before that and haven't missed one since. And again, I'm not blowing smoke either. I love the different walks of life of people that you get in. Somebody who's very scientific minded and knows everything about their biology, and then you pull in a schmo like me who's just literally a hobbyist. So, and everyone in between. So, I've really enjoyed the podcast.
No, man, but you're again, like I said, your group was so helpful for us. And it's making the connection, and it's a lot of what we try to talk about, right? Is that human wolf connection? Is how do we come from all different points of life, and we converge upon this one thing.
Sure.
Whether it's wolf watching or bear watching or whatever it is, we're out in nature and loving the conservation part of the fact that we can go to this park or go to these other parts in the United States and witness these animals in their natural environment.
Right.
I mean, that to me is the ultimate, or one of the ultimate things that we get to do here, out in this part of the United States, is that we're here. You said it was life-changing for you. I know you can't put a thing, maybe a pin in whatever it is, but what did you see shift in yourself?
I think it's no secret. A lot of people suffer from mental issues, and I've had some anxiety and some depression in my life. And it was a couple things that Rick wrote in his books, and then you see him in person. And it was about how wolves love life so much they can't conceive of giving up. They can't conceive of have any sort of self-pity. If they've got 3 legs, so be it. They still have to go hunt and provide for their family. If they lose an eye, so what? You still got to get out there and do it. So for me to just kind of equate that to my life, thinking, they love life so much. You watch them get up from a nap and they've been sleeping for 2 hours and, there's a pack mate next to them. They wake up and act like they haven't seen this other wolf in 2 years.
Right.
And the joy they have just waking up and seeing each other and, getting together for a group howl or go out on a hunt or play with a stick. It's just, you look at those simple things that they derive so much pleasure and so much joy from, and you think, I have no place in my life for self-pity. There's no reason for that ever. So you just kind of think, I need to love life like a wolf does. And so that's helped me out a lot, personally.
No, it's big because what can you relate from your professional life to your wolf watching life? Are there any parallels that you had that either made it better or worse, or put you out of your shell, that broke you out of your shell maybe a little bit? Was there something that, like you said, where, but maybe you battled some anxiety, some depression? Like, what was it about anything with golf? Because you're still involved in golf pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So is it a good balance for you now to have both?
It is. Amazingly enough, I was thinking about it on the drive up here. I just finished a week at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines in San Diego. And as I was watching some of the groups that I was commentating on, it really paralleled watching wolves in that, certain wolves, they have this personality and they're very bold, and this wolf is very timid. And, you watch them interact with other wolves, and it's very similar with golfers and caddies. This player is very bold. He'll try anything, and he's a big leader. And this other one is kind of timid, and he kind of shrinks from bigger situations. And, it's not something I said on the air at all, but there's definitely some parallels there. And I found it very interesting in trying to analyze what's going on in the golf. And I definitely thought about the wolf pack, as I was watching both,
Yeah. That's amazing. And then you get here, because we discussed this. We got your information in Yellowstone, and then you're driving up here because you came up. Did you stay? Because you stayed in local before. You didn't drive up from San Diego.
I was in San Diego still yesterday on Monday to do a little thing for Golf Channel, and then came up here and stayed in Palmdale last night.
Palmdale, yeah. So at least you didn't have to do the 2.5 hour drive.
Not at all. No.
So just to be clear, John was willing to drive about 5.5, 6 hours from Sacramento. We're like, no, we're not gonna have that. Well, I know you don't.
Once I've been here, now you're not gonna be able to get rid of me. Now 6 hours is easy.
No, because you drive. mean, you say you drive 16, 17 hours to Yellowstone, and that's no problem. But we try to make it as accommodating as possible.
You were
John.
very
you know,
accommodating.
We got to be.
I appreciate it.
We don't want you to go too much out of your way. So when you're here, what was your first? Because this is great. Because this is the first time we've really had somebody fresh off of. You know, we went to Yellowstone, and now you're here.
Mm-hmm.
What were your first impressions? What were the things that ran through your mind when you just got here?
Initially, the first thing I thought of was what you guys were talking about at Yellowstone, how you were watching these wild wolves from Junction Buttes or Wapiti and saying, oh, there's a daisy, or, there's this. So it was interesting to me because, I don't know the wolves individually in Yellowstone as well as Jeremy or Taylor or Laurie or Rick or anything like that. But I know certain personalities and certain numbers and their personalities. So it was fun coming here and seeing the wolves that you were talking about that we saw in the wild and their personalities. And, wolves are so unique individually. You can't say wolves do this or wolves do that. They're like people. Their personalities vary so much. And, in the wolves you have here, you've got a little bit of everything. Some who are a little shy and skittish, and others who come right up to you and start rubbing on you and want, what they want, that connection, and other ones who are a little wary but warm up to you a little bit. So just seeing that, you see it in the wild, obviously, but to see it in person that close was fascinating to me, seeing their different personalities. Because usually you're scoping from a mile or two, and you can see it, certainly, but you can't see facial expressions. You can't see, hackles raised typically from that far away. So to be able to come up and see that very specific things in person, I was so excited. The second I got here, I was super excited, and it just kept getting better and better as we went on.
Yeah, it was great because you got to walk with Kenai, our alpha, and you got to see the difference between him and Jax, and you met the majority of them through the fence. Mm-hmm. And you got to meet Coda and a couple of my
and Wiley.
Wiley. Well, yeah. I mean, it was great because you got to see interactions and things that, like you say, we witness them every day. And it's sometimes I think about it when we talk about these interactions, when Renee's on the podcast and we say, oh, yeah, this is how they interact. And people might not see it or not be able to picture it as we can describe it. And we do the best we can. So for you to see it up close, that has to be, because you're, like you say, your gaze it was a mile. Now it's, right in your face.
Right.
And you're able to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to be accepted by a wolf, that is shy initially, is such a special feeling for me, who might shy away or avert their eyes, and then they kind of get a little closer and a little closer. And then when they finally engage with you, I don't know what it is, but you feel like your soul's in a better place. I mean, that may be a little out there and new agey, but
it could be woo-woo-y a little bit, but it's fine. Okay,
It does. It makes you feel like your soul's in a better place when a wolf accepts you, and because to me, they're the epitome of what's wild. And to have them come and accept you is a feeling it's indescribable.
Why do you think that is with wolves? I don't know. I keep asking this question, and I get different answers every time. But for you, what is it? You know what I mean? Because I feel different things every time. But for you, why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think for me, they have some sort of a wisdom that I don't think we can approach or understand, and I hate to anthropomorphize them at all, but that's, it's what it looks like when you look them in the eyes and you're up close and you see them, they're figuring you out. That's not a blank stare at all. Like some animals can give you that stare. There's nothing going on. You can tell.
I know, yeah.
But with wolves, you can tell, is this guy okay? And what am I safe to do around him? Am I going to need to be protective of myself? So just to have that interaction up close with what to me is, it's something that's been lost in our souls, is the wildness that I think is good for everybody. So just to be able to interact with them on that level. Every time I leave Yellowstone, and I'll probably do the same thing leaving here today, I'm driving away and I'm thinking, okay, why did I just leave? I'm trying to figure out why I'm going home, and so I can't, last year I think I spent 42 days in the park in Yellowstone, and it's never enough. Yeah, it's never enough.
It's a draw, and I think you're right. The feelings that come up every time, because when I when we're here and we're doing pack care and we're doing all these events and things of that sort, there are points during the day or during an event where almost like a wedding, where they always say to the bride and groom, or at least, they told us, you take a step back and just sort of look at everything for a good 3 or 4 seconds and just witness everything that's going on around you at that point. So you can sort of take that mental snapshot. And I feel as though we did that. The times we're in Yellowstone is just taking it in for a moment. And here, same thing at Wolf Connection is we do that. I do it a couple of times where I'll just sit, or I'll just zone out. I guess you could say zone out for, 5 to 10 seconds and just be where I am at that point and go, wow, this is really part of my life at this point.
I completely understand. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. You stop and pinch yourself every once in a while. And I think the second time I went, I had a great interaction with a couple wolves that I wasn't expecting at all. But I typically, when I go there, I'm in the park an hour before sunrise and stay until it's dark. And I don't want to miss anything. You never know what's going to happen at any certain point. And I happened to go in one morning and parked at Lower Hell Roaring because there was some activity the night before. They had a kill down there. And I thought, well, maybe, I'll start there and just, what I typically do is I'll get out of my truck and just sit on the hood and listen. If I can pick up howls from one area or another, I know, okay, that's an area I can go to. And it was pitch black, no even hint of a sunrise yet. And about, 50 feet in front of my car, I saw these two sets of eyes just walking across the road, leaving where the kill site was from the night before. Wow. And then about 10 minutes later, probably a mile away in the direction they were going, you heard this huge group howl. And you're out there in the dark all by yourself and you hear that. And I'm a huge music fan, but I've never heard anything that compares to a wild howl in the wolf howl in the wild. So, those moments like that, those are the ones I do the same thing you do, is kind of step back and go, I'll never forget this moment.
Yeah. I mean, what's that? How do you have the reaction that you have? Because there are people out there that I know, if they were in that same situation, possibly, they may feel differently, whether it be like you or the other side where they might be a little frightened because of whatever it is. Why do you think it is that you're comfortable in that situation? Well, what is it with you, with you and the wolves itself that makes it a comforting action?
I don't have too many fears about the wild or camping or any animals, really. I don't like rats. Outside of that, I'm usually pretty okay. But, I think when you read Rick's books or, Doug's books or any books about wolves, they're really not a danger to to human beings at all. I think they're much more frightened of us than we are. I mean, I think we're more frightened of them than they are. What am I trying to say here? I'm getting mixed up.
I think what you're saying, because they're basically, they're not,
they don't want to be around us.
Exactly.
Right.
They don't want to be around us.
Yeah. So, anytime I get anywhere near them, I'm just thankful. But, if you read any of those books, they just don't attack humans, unless they're sick or threatened. They don't want anything to do with us. So, even if I was out hiking, I wasn't near my car or something like that, and I heard those howls, I don't think I'd be frightened at all. I think I'd know what to do, and don't try and get closer and give them their space. So, just that knowledge and through reading those books is for me, it gives me a sense of calm out there. I don't. I would be afraid of bears for sure, and I think I would know what to do. But as far as wolves go in the wild, I don't think I would ever have any sort of fear out there of them.
Yeah, you clearly had tons of fear when you were when we finished our hike and our interactions. I could tell you're totally frightened. Because what's that like for you? We might have touched on it already, but just the fact that you're this close to high contents, and granted, not all the wolves that we have here are full, high content wolves. Some of them are low, mid, high. What was that like for you? How did you take all that in to know that there's different levels, at least out there domestically, that need to be rescued and things like that? How is it?
I think just you explained, and Renee and Elena all explained what goes on in the different content here and the different personalities. So I think as long as you go in knowing it's on their terms, you don't get to decide, I want to go close to this wolf or I want to pet this wolf. It's on their terms. So it's just a feeling of letting go a little bit, really, and saying it's their decision. If they want to come up and let me pet them, fantastic. If they want to nip at my fingers, that's their decision too. So you just got to be mindful of it. But I think you just have to it's their decision. It's not yours. And to force it on them, makes whatever habit they have more ingrained. If they're skittish and a little afraid of humans, if you force it and try and get them, they're going to be more skittish. So just to kind of sit there and let them approach you, to have that bit of knowledge, I think, is invaluable.
Yeah. I got Steven texted me this morning before he goes. He's like, I'm not gonna be able. He can't be with us, but he told me to ask you. He had one question he wanted me to ask you, and it says, now that you've met the wolves in person, does it at all change or simply further your existing perspective of the wolves you've seen in the wild and in their nature? That's
a great question. Yeah, I think it kind of solidifies what I see and what I think out there. We talked about it earlier about their different personalities, and you know it in talking with Laurie and Rick and Jeremy, and Maddie and Taylor, who are so good at identifying the individual wolves and telling you what to look for in their personalities. And once they tell you, you really start noticing those things. So I think it will solidify those feelings of in the wild, because up close, it's exactly the same. It's, there were a couple that obviously stay well away from the fence and don't get anywhere near you. Others who are kind of saying, this is my place, what are you doing here? And others who say, hey, who are you? Let's play, like a pup or a yearling or something. Yeah. So I think it just solidified what I see in the wild.
Yeah, which ones, if you can remember, because I know
Wiley. I loved Wiley.
You love Wiley?
I loved Wiley. He was a blast to me when he interacted with Jax.
Yeah.
What you said was one of the first times he'd done that. And to watch him kind of spar a little bit and play with him and almost be a little dominant over
Nanny,
him.
Yeah, it was great. It was a good thing.
Yeah. And Nanny is
Luna.
My gosh, so calm, and what a presence she is. You could just, I think any wolf, it was, she would have such a calming effect on them, because she had that effect on me because she was just so quiet, and she'd look at you and it was peaceful, and she wasn't afraid of anything. And you could see that she had the same effect on the other wolves.
Yeah, she does incredible work. Her and Nova doing amazing work. And yeah, for you to see the interaction and the nannying that was happening, and the fact that Jax was willing to accept that and be okay with that correction is, again, just part of his growth and being able to see that. And we were telling you that we had Alicia Jones on a couple of episodes ago, who was Jax's former caretaker. And the growth that we've seen from him, from a 4-month-old to now a 2+-year-old, is just mind-boggling.
Sure.
And to be able to see those things up close is really incredible. I mean, again, the work that the Maddies and Jeremy and Dylan, all these guys and all these individuals that they do in Yellowstone, is incredible work, and in a lot of time being spent. And it's when you just know what goes into all of the research that happens, and when we do some of it here and we see those behaviors and go there, I'm like, man, they really have their work cut out for them to be able to really gain the amount of knowledge and understand, how to track these packs and which wolves are which, and which roles they play, if they can figure those out, if they can. It's just incredible work that they do. Yeah,
I was thinking about you guys here, and when a new wolf comes in, how much time that must take to understand where this wolf is. Is it friendly? Is it scared? Can it be around other wolves? Can it be around males or females or older wolves? Or, to figure all those things out, that's got to be quite a task, trying to figure out who this new wolf will belong to and what he or she may need to work on in terms of being part of the new pack. That's got to be fascinating to work out.
Yeah, it's Renee and Elena and Julie and the entire pack services team, really, and Michelle. They do a great job of figuring all of those things out in terms of behavior, in terms of food, in terms of what's the imprint that was left. And some of it's trauma, some of it's not. And you met Willow, who She has no real, I mean, there was really no trauma for her
Right.
other than the fact that she had to be given up by her owner because she lost her house. But, you know, for her, she's extremely balanced. She's the cover of our podcast for a reason. But you could just feel that with her all the time. And she really pushes that out there. I don't know if you felt that at all with her when
for
she
sure.
was there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what it's just a different feeling from every wolf, which is so special, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely felt that from her.
Yeah.
Very balanced, very confident.
Let's see if I can flip this on you.
Okay.
So are there any of the wolves that you met here that you can relate to some of the wolves that you
That's a good question.
Yellowstone?
I'm trying to think now. One of my favorite wolves in Yellowstone is 1109, and she's kind of been ostracized from the Junction Butte pack. And she's been on her own, and whenever they see her, they kind of chase her away. But this winter I was there, and one of the yearlings had kind of befriended her, and they were kind of walking around as a pair. So I'm trying to equate that with somebody here in terms of a pair, but that loneliness she must have felt from being ostracized from a pack that she'd been a part of since the day she was born.
Yeah.
To have that other wolf join her, and even if it's just for a day or two, you know, playing, but you know, they'd spent a few days together when I was there. So just that community. So I don't know if there's any specific wolf here who I would equate it to, but you know, I think probably a lot of these wolves spent their lives without any of the dogs or wolves around them. So to have that companionship all of a sudden and say, oh, these are my people, or these are my wolves, it very much reminded me of 1109 and this yearling when we were there last time. Yeah.
I mean, that's where we get a lot of, this is where we talk about on the tours or anybody that comes through, is that this is such an unnatural pack because they come from so many different places and so many different backgrounds. But the fact that they all howl together, they all work together to allow each other to grow, even though they're all separated in different enclosures. They may not all hike together. They may not all get along, but there's a vibe in here that allows them to settle and to grow and to be part of this place at Wolf Connection, so that they can be the best wolf dog that they can be. Kenai, I mean, we told you about that. Kenai, I say this all the time, is that Kenai, it took him 7.5 to 8 years to be the alpha that he is right now, and he just turned 10.
Right.
So to think about the amount of time and the timing that it takes and the right set of circumstances and the mistakes that were made or the missteps that happened along the way to get to that point. And it's so incredible to see that growth up close for the amount of time that we're here. And I mean, it speaks to 1109 a little bit, which I think
I can't imagine seeing it every day like you guys do. I'm coming in for a day here and seeing. Hopefully, I come back many more times and see their growth and watch them grow up. And but the fact that you guys get to watch this group of wolves every single day, watch them mature or get older, which always isn't the best thing, and getting certain injuries or just getting the old age, or just seeing them come out of their shells when they get here. I can imagine some of them get here just scared to death, and afraid of their own shadow, and to, I'm sure, watching them every day get a little bit better, greet another wolf and then greet a human. And that's got to be so enriching for you guys daily to see their, how much they progress every day. And when they really come out of their shell and do something new, like, Wiley did today, that's got to be so cool.
Yeah. I mean, for you to see things like that, it's really, and it's just, it speaks, it's a testament to just the fact of because Wiley, he's a mid to low content, but Renee said this before, he's, in a way, he's sort of this glue, because he has been able to be around all of these high contents. He's almost like a little brother to Coda in a sense. And now if him and Jackson, this partnership is forming as two young males, to be able to hang out, go on hikes together, maybe they're able to hang out. I don't know if we want to stick Wiley in with Charlie, but the fact that they can be around each other is it just expands the enrichment process. And it really just gives them a whole different set of angles and skills that we can amplify.
Right.
And just really grow them to, again, just be the best that they can be. And
Right.
That's the part where you go, wow, some of the things that we're doing are really enriching their lives, even if it's in the latter stages, some of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I can totally see that, what you said about Wiley. You just, from the second you see him or interact with him, you feel like, he feels like one of those wolves who just likes everybody and everything. It's like, I'm going to look for what I have in common with this person or this wolf, and we'll go with that. And he just seemed like a fun wolf who was had a big heart when it came to anybody around him.
Oh yeah, no, he's been like that all the time. What trait as a wolf do you think that you epitomize most throughout the course of your life, or did it change?
Wow. I would say their empathy towards other wolves in their pack, trying to take care of things. I think sometimes I'm a people pleaser to a degree that's probably not healthy for me. But I still, it's one of those things. I want people to feel comfortable. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable around me or feel bad about themselves or about anything. So, in Rick's books, you read a lot about 21, and here's this unbelievably strong alpha who really made it a point to reach out to, injured pups or, wolves that weren't very highly ranked in the pack, and made it a point when he saw them down in the dumps to go over and spend time with them and play with them and make sure they felt included. Rick wrote that 21's a better wolf than I'll ever be as a man. I think the same thing. You think of traits like that and how much they care for one another in their own pack, and take care for one another. If somebody can't go out on a hunt because they're injured, they bring food back for the other wolves. It's not, especially if a mother dies and she has pups. I think a lot of other mammals and animals in nature would, a male would come along, kill those pups so he could, take along his bloodline. But for wolves, they raise them as a community. These are our pups. And I love that feeling of empathy they have for one another.
Man. Yeah. It's one thing you don't think about. And I feel a lot of that gets lost inside of the myth and the legend about what we were brought up to know for what wolves were, what they are, what they do. And it's such a unique perspective to see people such as yourself, Laurie Lyman, others that are working on coexistence projects, really get into the meat and bones of what wolves and wolf packs actually do, as opposed to what we believe that they do. And it's encouraging to see. Do you feel the community out there is growing in a positive way, growing on a younger scale? Do you think you're in your 50s, I think you said, right? Yeah. So, do you see that there's a lot more of the younger generation stepping up and wanting to be in nature, going to the park, watching wolves? Do you think it's something that'll cascade a little bit? Or, you probably can't speak to it as much, but what do you see just as a general observer?
Sure. It feels like it. I think younger generations in general are more forgiving and more liberal when it comes to, societal ideas. And I think that younger generation cares a lot more about ecology and conservation. And I certainly think it would transfer over to wolves. I don't know why it wouldn't. And I think, we grow up with these fairy tales and these myths about wolves, which couldn't be further from the truth, and I think as the further and further we can get away from that, whether it's Rick's books or Laurie's reports or Bob Landis's films, I think the more information that gets out there, the better off, wolves in the wild will be.
Yeah. We just interviewed Jim and Jamie Dutcher, and I watched that Living with Wolves documentary again. Again, it's a remote and it's a controlled study.
Right.
But for anyone to think after watching that these you might go in thinking one thing, and yeah, I asked them the tough questions about it, but to see the way that these wolves acted around them, in and around them, really speaks to, I think, the larger picture of what they actually are.
Right.
And that they are just, and it's funny because a lot of different individuals on here have said they are just doing their thing,
Mhm.
and that's what they want to be doing. And it's fascinating to see that in a controlled situation with us here on the ranch, that if you just let them do their thing, you'll see some fascinating things.
Mhm.
And it's just, you'll see that they're just trying to live, thrive, and survive.
Right.
And that's really what it is. You know,
Right.
and there's nothing that they're, I don't think, doing too much
Right.
on the negative end.
There's a book called Three Among the Wolves. I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't, no.
It's a fantastic book. I'm drawing a blank on the authors right now, but it's this couple who studies wolves. And it was they went up to the Arctic with their dog, Charlie. And Charlie was a low content wolf dog, but, super friendly and great with kids but had a little bit of wolf in him. So they went up to study these Arctic wolves. And I won't give away the whole book, but it's worth a read. They basically accepted this couple studying them from closer than the couple anticipated, because this pack looked at this pack and saw it as a 3-person pack, or a 3-wolf pack with Charlie as their alpha.
Wow.
And so, it just goes through this really relationship that Charlie, they never got up close because Charlie was always on a leash when they were around, but they developed this amazing relationship. And I won't give it away, but the end of the book's a tearjerker when he talks about when Charlie leaves these wolves. But yeah, it's, and I equate what you were talking about with this book a lot. So
yeah, it's amazing too how the bonds can just be so different, right? It doesn't always have to be physical. And I try to mention that as much as I can, because we always feel that we need to have these physical bonds, touching, petting, grow. I need to be able to touch something in order for it to feel like I have this connection.
Right.
And with some of them, just being able to be 5, 10, 15 feet away, even if it's 25, that there's a wolf that I'm talking about here at Wolf Connection, as opposed to when you go to Yellowstone, that's even further. That's amplified by, a mile, 2 miles, however much, how good your scope is and how clear the distance.
Right.
But do you feel that is there validity to that you feel there's still that connection, there's still a bond, even at that distance, and you feel that draw? Obviously you go back, as much as you can. So obviously there is a draw. But
I think the watchers feel it for sure. I think a lot of them have their favorite wolves and their favorite packs, and worry about them when they're not there, and as they get older, or if they get in a fight with another pack or anything like that. So absolutely, I think I definitely feel that. That's my next step, and I know the packs fairly well. I know the areas, but I think the next step I need to take when I go there is learning the individual wolves more, and because you watch somebody like Jeremy or Rick, and one quick glance in a scope at 25 wolves, and they'll know every single one that's there and what they're like. So, that's my next goal, is to start learning the individual wolves a little bit better. And there's some great resources for that. Obviously, Yellowstone Reports, what Laurie does, and then Jim Halfpenny's guides that he puts out every year of the wolf packs, and hopefully has pictures to go along with a lot of them, are very helpful with that too.
Yeah, Jim was an awesome guy to talk to, because Jim, to me, and to Steven too, we go, this was a guy, and I don't know what it is about him. Like, his voice was just very soothing in a way, but he had this way of speaking in a tone that was just so engaging, and he's been doing this for so long, but he's such an informative person,
right,
in this field, that I don't think he's involved as much as he was before, because I think he's in his 70s now, right?
I think so.
But he's just that's another incredible asset to be able to speak to.
Yeah, it's a good story about last time I was there. I've been going up for a few years, and I've gotten to know Laurie, and like we said, a lot of the other people, and I think I've become decent at spotting wolves and packs and knowing the different landmarks and how to describe where wolves are.
Right.
So Laurie, happened to call Jim and say, hey, this group has a bunch of radios that they talk back and forth on when they're in the park, saying they've got, these animals at this place or this pull out, just to kind of, so you've got it spread out a little bit. And Laurie, was able to contact Jim and say, hey, I think John Wood is someone who might be great to have a radio, because he's a good spotter. And I tell you what, it felt like I was being knighted. I felt like I was walking in gyms and he was pushing a sword on both my shoulders. So that was a quite an honor to be a part of that group.
Yeah. What's that like? Just having the radios go back. Is it helpful sometimes? And is it also sometimes that there's too much chat? Like, what do you usually do? Are you?
No, I think there's usually not too much. I think most of the people realize it's say as little as you need to.
Got it.
And me being fairly new to the group of people with these radios, if there's somebody else there with a radio, I tend to turn mine off completely because I know they're more adept at the protocols and how to handle everything.
Right, and the verbiage.
But if I'm at a place, by myself and I see wolves, it's a very minimal thing. You kind of, who else is there, their radio number, and you say, 17, this is 269. And I have wolves at Slough Creek, or I have two animals at, tower pull out. And that's basically it. You don't talk about it or what's going on. You just kind of get the information out there. So,
so that everybody can
get there. Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just a really, and the fact that to be able to be indoctrinated into that situation for you, and I'll ask this because did you think 10 years ago, this is where you'd be?
No, not doing this. No, definitely not this involved. I always thought it was something I would do, but not that it's taken over my life, but it's certainly, there's a few hobbies. I love baseball. I love, playing music and trying to write songs. But if I've got any chance at all to go see wolves, that's like my number one thing I want to do in my life. And I never thought it would go to that top level of hobbies or interests in my life. And it definitely has.
Do you think you've struck more of a balance in your life since you've done this? Or is it an added?
It's probably added. And honestly, it's just jokingly, it's probably taken away from some of our relationships because I'm like, okay, I can spend time with these people or I can go see the wolves. And it's typically, I want to go see the wolves. So it goes hand in hand. But, it's amazing how many of my friends are fascinated by it. They haven't done it themselves, but when I start telling them stories of what I see and showing them my videos and pictures, I think it only increases the knowledge of wolves and who and what they really are to people who don't necessarily go to Yellowstone. But, everybody I show it to is just like, oh, I got to go. Can I come with you sometime? Yeah. And the more people you expose to it, the better off wolves are going to be.
And that's the best part. I mean, we talked about this to a couple different people. We spoke with a hunter who is also a pro wolf advocate. Mm-hmm. And that's the best part is that you being able to speak with people just in layman's terms or speaking to individuals who aren't necessarily on the front line of either it's wolf watching or preservation or conservation, but they're just going about their daily lives. And the more they hear about it from a friend of theirs or someone that they know closely enough and get the information from, it's probably better off than getting it from someone who might be in a professor or an educator or things of that sort. And it's almost better that it comes to them in a way that they're able to understand and really get to feel
no question. Like. And I think Rick's books do an amazing job of that because they're not overly scientific. He tells stories and, they're life stories of these wolves. And, I've told everybody who want, if they ask me about Yellowstone or the wolves, I go, hey, read these two books, and this will tell you if you're interested or not, because most people read those stories and go, oh my gosh, I have to go. I think Rick's books are amazing at that. But just telling people what you see and showing them. I've been lucky enough to get some good videos and some good pictures while I've been up there and to come home and show those to people. It's a hoot. It's I don't know other way to describe it. It's just a blast.
Really great. Oh yeah. It's so awesome. And you shared some incredible videos and photos with us. And we can't thank you enough for doing that, man, because it's just the randomness of life and how these things work out that, we met you and the fact that we saw you in Yellowstone, you're here with us now. And I got to ask my final question that I ask everybody else is when you hear the word wolf, what is the thing that comes to your mind?
It goes back to something we talked about early in the broadcast about how there is no self-pity. There's no sense of, I'm injured, I can't go hunt. I'm hurt, I'm just going to lay down for a couple days. It is, No, I love life so much. I don't care what obstacle you put in front of me. I'm going to keep going until I can't breathe anymore. And so just for me as a human being, I think if I can take that into my daily life and not let little setbacks get to me like wolves don't, I'll be a better person for it. So that when I think about wolves these days, that's what I think about most.
Man, that's great. John, I tell everybody too, because you got a great Instagram, you got tons of stuff. Tell everybody where they can follow you, and then where's your next gig for Golf Channel? What's going on with
Sure. My Twitter and Instagram are John Wood, spelled WOULD. Yeah, I try and post a lot of videos on there. There's a lot of golf content too, just so you can go right past that if you want to. But whenever I go to Yellowstone, I try and post anything interesting or good that I get. I try and put it up there. And my next gig with NBC Golf Channel, I've got a couple weeks off here, and then we'll go across the pond for the British Open. After that, I think I've got a couple more weeks off, and then we'll do a run of the playoffs and the Ryder Cup and a whole bunch of big events after that. So fairly busy schedule coming up, but I'm really enjoying the job so far. Like I just started in January, but I'm really enjoying it. So
yeah, you got a great voice for it, man. You really do. Like just hearing it through that. I mean, you got a great voice and it's great. I mean, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
This is great, and I'm so glad that you took your passion to golf and now you're able to, I mean, it's fun. It sounds like it's just fun for you now, which is perfect.
Well, I want to thank you guys for having me down and showing me the wolves and having me on here. I was kind of thinking, boy, what do I have to say here compared to some of the amazing guests that you've had on here? But, you've got great questions and I just want to thank you for having me here and seeing the wolves. Just a special day for me.
Of course. Yeah. You're welcome back anytime. You know that. You're part of the pack now, John. You know that, right?
I'll be down here cleaning out dog bowls in no time, I'm sure.
I'm fine with, listen, we need all the help we can get. Okay. You know that. Oh my God. All right, everyone. How's everybody out there? And Steven will be with me next time. But till then, talk to you later, everybody. Bye. Looking to support Wolf Connection or sponsor one of the wolves in our pack? Just go to wolfconnection.org, click on the donate tab, and find out more information.